And unless you're watching live, whatever time you're watching, I'm glad you're here. This is LMC Live, and by popular request, today's LMC Live is going to be about the IBM Personal System 2 Model 25, not a review or an analysis. There have been others with more prestigious YouTube channels that have done pretty thorough reviews on this system, but today's live stream is going to be more of a nostalgic trip down memory lane for those of us who have used this in before, who might have been a first computer used in school. Plus, want to go over a couple of things. You'll see them sitting over here on top of this external IBM 5¼ inch disk drive. Actually, let's cover those first. So one of the things that I always like to have with IBM systems is original documentation, if you can get a hold of it. Photocopies just don't do it justice. And original media. Now, in months past, I have procured several of the guide to operations, if you really call that a guide to operations compared to the inch-plus wide thick binder that the PC, XT, AT, and some other IBM machines of that time frame came with. You'd get this, and you'd also get the starter diskette. Well, the first starter diskette that I received had bad media. The surface of the media was bad, and it didn't matter what I did. Low-level formatting didn't really exist for terms of floppy drives, but for specialized formatting tools that could potentially recover or at least work their way around bad sectors on a floppy disk couldn't work. So I ordered another guide to operations and starter diskette. That set off of eBay was supposed to come with a starter diskette and the PS2 mouse driver. Well, somebody must have wanted them more than I did, or the packaging just broke somewhere in transit because there was a slit at the end of the envelope. The documentation was in there, but not the disk. Like, okay. So kept an eye on it, but other guide to operations and starter disks didn't really show up inexpensively. They were always included as collections of other IBM PS2 guide to operations and reference disks, in which case, $100+ for these huge collections. And all I really needed was the Model 25. Another one did come up, just the Model 25, although they had mislabeled the ad as Model 25 286. Now, that is a nice piece of equipment to have, especially if it comes with a working piece of spinning rust, which the drive wasn't proprietary connector. It wasn't like SD or something like that, but the way that the drives were manufactured to interface with the motherboard of those systems made it impossible. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Did find it, got it. Haven't tested the media out. We're going to test the media here shortly and go through the exploring the IBM PS2 Model 25 program. I thought those were pretty cool programs that IBM contracted out for, because this live stream was not advanced scheduled like I usually try to do, but you know how it is when content creation is more your side hustle, side stroll than your main job. But without further ado, let's get the show on the road. So this IBM PS2 Model 25 originally came with It had working spinning rust. I did take that out. It has a Blue Lava Systems version of the XT IDE. You will see that come up. I have not had any trouble getting that to work on this. Just going to reposition the camera, get a little bit better view. Now, with the XT IDE card, if you're going to boot off of, and you get to see my ugly mug in the reflection. Whoops. These three options up here, FDD, HDD, COM detect, I think that's serial, and then ROM boot, that just kicks you to basic. Because I missed that, I'm going to Control-Alt-Delete to restart, and well, we'll try spinning the camera around this way. Whoops. I missed it again. No problem. All right. There we go. Oh, that's kind of funny. Disk boot failure. One more time. Whoops. Nope. Of course, don't know. Is it a problem with the disk? Or is it a problem with the drive? I'm really hoping it's not a problem with the drive. So let's skip that for the time being, and we're going to look at some other stuff we acquired off of eBay. Notice this. The Advanced Diagnostics disc and the hardware maintenance and service addenda for these two machines. It came with both discs, and you can see that they've sat in whichever environment for a while that the labels have actually separated from the discs. But that's okay. We'll just slide the Advanced Diagnostics disc out. See if we can get this to boot. Well, that boot's okay. Kinda. So it looks like we'll have to find the tweener machine and run spin right on this floppy disk and see if at least the media is usable, and I might be able to rewrite the starter diskette image on this disk. So what else about this machine? It does have the 640K. It has the XT IDE with a 64 meg compact flash card. That's what it came with. I also have the external 5¼ inch controller card for 360K drives. Thanks to David Beam, who did provide me with this 360K drive. It was more of a swap, and shout out to David. I still have in the box to be mailed back to him a 1.2 meg drive that I acquired a couple of summers ago. You know how COVID is, and I do apologize, David. I have no excuses for not getting that back to you. It will get it sealed and back in the post soon. So let's do a system checkout. While this is loading, I'm just going to go get a blank 720K disc so that we can do, and a 360K disc so that we can actually do the disk drive tests for diagnostics. It'll take me less than a minute, so bear with me. Just going to run into the library. So back when I installed the XT IDE, I also installed an 8087 coprocessor that was working from another PS2 Model 25. I was pretty sure it was installed in the correct orientation and that no pins were bent. But as you can see, the installed devices, it is not showing up on here. I'm just going to say, is the list correct? No, it's not. We're going to add items. I think it's interesting that, of course, it was probably an oversight, if they cared enough. IBM, like the expanded memory adapter, that will actually not fit inside of a Model 25. The Personal System 2 display adapter is 16-bit. I'm not sure if it can work in an 8-bit mode, but I don't think that will work in a Model 25, but neither here nor there. So we're going to say 7. And we do not have a music feature card, although I'm pretty sure the music feature card will fit in here. Okay, the list is correct. Let's run tests a couple of times. I've got the 360K and put that in our external drive. I've got our 720K and we'll put that on there. We're going to run all tests, and of course I know it's going to complain about the math coprocessor, but we're going to tell it don't wait when there's an error. Sure, let's run all video tests. Nope, there's no cable. I do have a wrap plug for this, I believe. Let me go get it. Supposedly, when I got these also off of eBay, it was a very large set, not just for Personal System 2, but for other IBM equipment. The wrap plug, I do not have a parallel wrap plug. If somebody has an extra or wants to point it out to me, and this one actually it does fit, but it's a little snug in the back because the way of the chassis kind of wraps around the port. If anybody has any comments, any questions, or if you just want to give me a shout out in the comments so I know who's here, because the live streams don't tell me the way that the camera on my capture device is set up. Well, I'm kind of surprised they did not complain about the math coprocessor. Maybe I just have to reseat the coprocessor in the socket. Hey, GTT ARUS1. If I mispronounce that, forgive me. quite a few years ago, I did have, actually, it was a Model 3286. And of course, there are a lot of us who often look back and say, why did we get rid of whatever it was that we had? And that was one of the systems. I got rid of the Model 3286 and an external floppy drive had back then. And it's taken quite a while to repiece collections after they've been discarded or life events force their sale. And yes, I agree. It did not support EGA, but strangely enough, the actual tube itself, the display itself, could support VGA, even though the adapter didn't drive that. So some people will tell you, oh, if you get an 8-bit VGA card and put it in this thing, you can do some internal modifications and drive VGA to it. But I'm like, considering this only has 2 expansion slots, who wants to chew one up for that? I've had a theory. If you are aware of the IBM expansion unit, the 5161 that they created to go with the original PC, because it only had 5 expansion slots and no base for a hard drive, I often wondered, could you hook that expansion unit up to a Model 25 or a Model 30 with the 8088? And would that work? I mean, would the processor or CPU or math coprocessor in a Model 25 or 30 8088 not be too fast for an expansion unit? And yes, I loved the 286 did support EGA and VGA. I think it might have even supported SVGA 800 by 600. I'm going to let it go through diagnostics at least twice, because this Model 25 has been kind of sitting out of service for a while. And then I'm going to try booting off of the starter diskette again. And what I'll do as an offline video, because I haven't had any regularly scheduled non-live stream videos, going to do a video on running SpinRite 5.0 on floppy disks to see what's really going on with this. And love the sound that little gem makes when it's working on things. And yes, it was, because IBM had this knack of putting in the slower Intel CPUs compared to what the clone makers were doing at the time. Welcome the big crash. Yes, you'll have to go back and watch from the beginning. We had a problem getting the starter disk to work. So that's going to be the basis for a regularly scheduled channel video rather than a live stream. Because their plan was, well, that, oh, okay, the math coprocessor did actually fail. And the fixed disk drive squawked because it's not a real IBM fixed disk, it's the XT IDE card. And the Flopotron was amazing. Was an amazing machine, I thought. It's unfortunate they decommissioned it, took it apart. But to imagine the programming that was involved in getting all of those devices to perform in a synchronized way to get all those drives to sound like it. Oh, I'll definitely have to check that out. This is going to take a while just to see if I can eliminate at least the floppy drive failure. I'm going to replace this generic 360K with a real IBM one. We're going to put this in here and see if it works better. I know watching diagnostics is kind of like doing laundry or cleaning or watching the grass grow or paint dry. Although I'm kind of curious, for this model of machine, did you have any favorite software that you like to run on it, whether it was a Model 25 or GTT, the Model 30? So the big crash and I went to high school. We were a grade apart, and here's what interesting. It says, so the Model 25 came out in 1987. Trying to think, were there any updates to the... Yes. Might have come out in earlier 87. But the version of the Guide to Operations that I have is a second edition. And the copy that I have came out in at least May 89, because this technical directory here. All right. We're going to restart this. We'll put... we'll let it boot up off of the C drive. I did actually have a backpack CD-ROM attached to this, but considering this machine is 8088 or 8086 versus a 286, I decided to move it over to the PCAT. If you haven't watched any of the PCAT videos, I'll link the latest AT video at the end of this live stream. Well, if you're not watching it live, you'll see that at the end of the live stream. And today is and the time is 15:54. So what do I have on here? So this is a 64 meg compact flash, but it's partitioned into two separate partitions. Each one has 32 megabytes worth of stuff, because DOS 3.3 will only support partition sizes of 32 megs. Useless trivia, Microsoft had created only for Compaq DOS version 3.31, which would support partitions up to 512 megs in size. Considering 640K RAM only, DOS 4, which would have been the first IBM branded version of DOS that would have supported partitions up to 512 megs, the memory overhead for that, I was like, oh, forget it. I'll just deal with 32 meg partition limits. We'll do that. Let's format that disk in drive B just for giggles. See if there's no errors with it. I will say one thing, having the XT IDE does speed things up, but, like everything else, you can't upgrade the RAM in it. It still is an, 8086 processor. It'll only go so fast, even if you are using the equivalent of solid state storage. Love Sierra games. I had posted on one of LGR's videos that Verizon makes something that's called the Wireless Home Phone Kit. Now, it's supposed to support faxes and modems up to 14.4. Although in my day job, even going through and telling the fax machines to intentionally negotiate at 14.4, it's been a disaster, an absolute disaster. So I'm not sure if that'll work or not. I haven't had the opportunity to try it out in my other quote-unquote studio, hook that machine up, the PC 5150. Although I'm kind of disappointed. I had spent some buku money on getting the PC voice communications adapter for that system, and it is starting to fail diagnostics. So I'm just kind of like sad face poo-pooed about that, because I don't know how do you fix that problem without replacing the whole card. Well, anyway, I wonder if this thing will even just wonder if that'll even read a directory. Well, it will. It'll recognize the, well, maybe running the diagnostics on the drive will get it to come back to life. No. Okay. So we'll run spin right on this offline, see if it finds anything. You'll have to if he was even aware of who I was or had interest in such a card. I mean, it really is neat technology. If you know anything about that card, it allowed for voicemail. Not really an auto attendant, but like you could say, thank you for calling LMC to leave a message for Dan, press 1, leave a message for Sean, press 2, leave a message for Sergio, press 3. You could do really cool stuff with it, and that was back in the 80s. All right, 10 14, 15, 16, 20, 22, and it is 1601, give or take. So, I've got DOS 3.3, I've got XT IDE files, PKZip, not compliant in the licensing, still looking for a copy on eBay. I really think that PKZip's ultra compression technology makes the best backup solution for old machines because it will do floppy disk spanning with the ultra compression and really shrink it down. Of course, I have Norton Utilities. We are compliant there. We did snag a copy off of eBay. That's Norton Commander. I'm looking for, is it Speed Disk? Yep. Not the version we're probably all familiar with, because if you've ever used MS-DOS 6, Microsoft licensed their version of Speed Disk, and I do apologize for the flicker that you're probably seeing right now. If you are epileptic, turn away. I'll stop that. No need to blind you all with that. Okay. Enable, of course. This looks like it's actually install files rather than the program, is it? I mean, loved this software, although considering this version is 4.5 from 95, little too much for this machine, and I actually may go back to IBM's own Assistant series products. Like, right. Whoops. Whoops. No help is available here. Is it Shift F1? How about F2? Yeah, I don't. There we go. Shift F3 cycled through all the different color on the Assistant series. Really wish you could set like a default to have it say like, I want you to call them up in this color scheme all the time. And they might have come up with that with version 2.0, but I'm not so sure. So this video is a little bit shorter than I wanted because we didn't get to go through the starter diskette. We'll do that spin right video, so stay tuned for that. If you're not a subscriber to LMC, please subscribe to Legacy Media and Computers. Do appreciate your support, even just watching. And if you do watch the videos, let the video go through all the way through. That helps the channel as well. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I think I just said that. I'm 10-second Tom over here. If you're not a patron, also am greatly appreciative to our Patreon patrons. They have provided the channel some great stuff and have helped us to buy some software like Stacker that we've used to that we've demonstrated on the channel. So go back and check that, and we'll see you in the next video.